There's 3 things in life that will never change: death, taxes, and me finding another excuse to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different for you guys. I wanted to give you my full review and my thoughts on the Sonic Frontiers game that just was released in November. Sonic Frontiers is the newest mainline Sonic game, created by the Sonic team over at Sega. With the announcement of this game, it was teased that it was going to have new settings, new movesets, new environments, and a brand new style in general when it came to the actual performance of the game. Basically, we were going to be seeing Sonic in a way that we had never seen him before. And honestly, that does create a little bit of concern from a lot of Sonic fans, because we've all seen what happens whenever Sonic Team tries to go in a whole new direction for the character. So I want to give you a brief rundown of Sonic Frontiers' story, and then give you guys my thoughts about what I thought the game did incredibly well, and some things that may need some work going forward. Also, it goes without saying, I'm going to be mentioning some major spoilers in this review. So if you haven't played this game yet, or if you have the game and you haven't gotten to the ending yet and you don't want it to be spoiled, go ahead and click off of this video. But make sure to come back when you're done with it. So anyways, let's take a look at the story. So we begin the game with a cutscene of Eggman, and he's in the middle of placing this new protocol on this mysterious looking tower. This protocol ends up becoming Sage, who is one of the big characters in this game. She appears to be some sort of AI, and this AI sucks Eggman into the tower without much context behind it, so we're left wondering what happened to Eggman. This also creates a lot of the bots around him to slowly start to become, I wouldn't say sentient, but more so they become alive. Which I guess is still kind of sentient, but you know what I mean.
You are really dumb, for real.
And then we see Sonic and some of his friends, specifically Amy and Tails, all riding on the tornado to potentially investigate the signal that Tails is picking up, which is a beckoning call from all of the Chaos Emeralds. As they go to investigate, they're sucked into this mysterious portal, and Sonic gets separated from his friends. And us as the player immediately get dropped into this new cyberspace looking level, which you do learn later is called cyberspace. And this is how the game kicks off. And the bare bones of the entire plot is that Sonic is basically trying to uncover the mystery of his surroundings, while also taking several trips down memory lane. He also needs to find a way to free his friends from cyberspace, and discover who is the mastermind behind all of this. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of this game, I really want to discuss real quick the marketing behind this. And the marketing was truly bizarre to say the least. When we first got a tease of Sonic Frontiers, it didn't even have a name yet. It was just some quick cutscene debuted at Sonic, it was either Sonic Fest or Sonic Central in 2020. Hey guys, Editor Jonah here. So just as a quick fact check, the Sonic Frontiers first teaser trailer actually came out in 2021 and not 2020 like I said in the video. So A+ for fact checking. And it's basically just a clip of Sonic running through the forest being chased by something, which followed by an explosion and then a cut to credits. Doesn't give us much, but it was enough to get us excited. But then in spring of 2022, we finally get some gameplay for the game, and it was debuted by IGN. And this was possibly the worst mistake that Sonic Team over at Sega could have done. That gameplay was straight garbage. Whoever was controlling the game didn't really take advantage of all of the cool functions that the game had, and it looked extremely empty, lifeless, and boring. Not a great way to get a bunch of Sonic fans on the hype train for this game. And we've all been there before when it comes to past Sonic games. Early hype comes out, the game debuts, or we see a bunch of trailers. It's a massive disappointment. We run it back. Sega Team promises that the next game is going to be bigger and better than ever. We get a bunch of disappointment after getting really hyped, and the cycle just continues and continues. So I can't speak for a lot of other Sonic fans, but I myself was extremely hesitant after seeing all the IGN footage. But then, out of nowhere, the tide turned. More trailers and gameplay started to come out, which showed off more of the incredible open zone concept, which if you're not familiar with that, think of like an open world game where you have the freedom to go and do as you please, but in this case it was more of an open zone, as the developers called it, which gives you the freedom to move around, but you still have a very specific goal in mind. But this open zone concept in general is a very, very new concept for 3D Sonic games. Yes, in Sonic Adventure, you really have the ability to kind of go around and have the freedom to go left and right, back and forth, and diagonal because it is 3D, but you really don't get the power of choice, of going basically wherever you want, because normally in Sonic games you're racing towards the end game. So let's jump right into my thoughts about this game, and let's start with some of the things that I absolutely loved about it, starting with the gameplay. First off, let's touch on the main islands, or in this case the main open zones, and I love the freedom that it gives you to truly explore. To be honest, it kind of reminds me of Spider-Man for the PS4 and PS5. There's times where you can just get lost in web swinging around New York. It's the same thing with this. It's so easy to just find yourself just running around and jumping over obstacles. You have the opportunity to level up your power, your speed, your defense, your ring capacity, and these all give you the chance to kind of give yourself a new edge in combat or just traversal in general. And I really am pleasantly surprised with what they do with all of these islands that you're on. The problem I usually have with open worlds is that they sometimes feel empty or lifeless because the developers didn't spend enough time filling these islands with obstacles, enemies, traversal objects, stuff like that. But that is not the case with this game. Each island comes with its own unique set of enemies and obstacles and challenges to fight, solve puzzles. And this kind of stuff makes the game so much more enjoyable on replay value, because you want to come back and rediscover some of the things you may not have found when you first played the story. Because if you're bored with fighting enemies and solving puzzles, there's always the opportunity to just take off running on the island and just do some parkour. And also, there's location markers located throughout each island. And if you do a specific puzzle to unlock that marker, that gives you a new part of the map that you can explore and gives you more details on the space around you. This is just an awesome concept. Also, each island has different climates and unique enemies to those islands. This really does help the environments feel fresh and challenging. Speaking of the enemies, there's a surprisingly huge amount of variation. Not only are there so many different types of enemies with their own different attacking styles, you as well also have the ability to use different types of attacks to bring them down. Whereas with one enemy, you might just be able to take it out with a simple homing attack. Other enemies, you may have to be a little bit more creative than that, either using tornado kicks, using the Psy Loop ability, or just a good old faithful sonic boom. And regardless of the type of enemy, once you figure out how to defeat that said enemy, it makes it so much more rewarding and really satisfying to defeat. Also, we can't forget about the bosses. Each island has one specific boss waiting for you at the end, or in this game, they're called Titans. And with these Titans, you have to play as Supersonic in order to defeat them. And this was so cool. It's been a while since I felt so epic and powerful when playing as Sonic, or in this case, Supersonic, at the end of the level. It's certainly not as challenging as other bosses, because again, you're freaking Supersonic. But since you have a ring count that decreases over time, you start to feel that pressure of figuring out how to defeat that Titan. I would argue that these final bosses aren't necessarily about difficulty, it's more about the spectacle. Because I mean, who wouldn't want to go toe-to-toe with these massive Titans as Supersonic and just kick butt? I mean, it's just freaking cool. And we cannot forget about the music for this game. The Sonic team composed an absolute A+ of a score, as always. Because no matter how bad or mediocre a Sonic game is, at least it almost always has a banger soundtrack to go with it. And Sonic Frontiers is no different. You can really feel the ominous and lonely vibe of Kronos Island, the deserted sandy atmosphere of Ares Island, and just any island that you're on. The music really does a great job of shifting to that tone so that you can become fully engrossed in what's going on. And we haven't even mentioned the best part about the music. Each time that you fight a Titan at the end of each island as Supersonic, there is a sick heavy metal track that plays while you're fighting the Titan. And this is unique to each island that you're on. And when these tracks are playing at full blast, it takes the whole boss battle to a new level of hype that I thought could never have been reached before. It really reminds me of Sonic Adventure 2, teaming up with Shadow and taking on the final boss with Crush 40's Live and Learn just absolutely hammering in the background. Man, good times. Before I got this game, I listened to a couple of the title tracks when they were released before the game came out, and I wasn't really that hyped. In fact, I was just kind of like, I mean, I guess it's okay. But then after playing the game and facing off against each Titan boss, after all that, I was like,
I'm here, reaching far across these new frontiers. With my life, I fight this fear. In my hands, I hold the ones I love. Walk forward through the cold tide. Always a new horizon. I won't give up till the end of me.
these are some of the best additions to any Sonic 3D game of all time, and you can take that to the bank. One last major positive I wanted to focus on was the story. Ian Flynn was the writer that was directed to write the majority of this game, and this was the best decision that the Sonic team has made in a long time. He has a track record of spending years writing Sonic the Hedgehog comic books with IDW Comics, among other projects, of course, and he knows Sonic and his friends more than most people. If there was anyone that I wanted taking full charge of Sonic's continuity and also creating a whole new story for a new game, he's the one to do it. Sonic feels a lot more toned back and reflective in this game. I feel like Roger Craig Smith, who is the voice of Sonic, was given specific instructions to dial back his performance a little bit, to feel a little less over the top and goofy like we've seen in things like Sonic Colors, and I think this was a great decision. It's not a bad thing at all. I mean, he's still super charming, funny, but there's a slight tone of seriousness to his voice and how he acts, and I think that gives his character so much more depth.
Your cyber corruption is accelerating. How can you smile when you can barely stand?
And not to forget, the supporting cast around him is probably the best that they've been in years. You've got Amy, who in this game has a heart of gold, but doesn't come across as that ditzy, on and again and off again girlfriend of Sonic that she's been in games past. And then you got Knuckles, who has to deal with his loner mentality and has to deal with some of the demons from his past, while also opening up to Sonic and being able to trust him as more of an ally and less of a rival. Then you have Tails, who actually addresses his wild inconsistency in Sonic games past, which not only adds to the continuity, but also makes us sympathize with him a whole lot more, instead of just being Sonic's little brother that follows him everywhere. Not only does this strengthen the relationship between Sonic and Tails, it also gives Sonic the ability to kind of become more of a mentor for Tails, and encouraging him to be his own person, and being okay with the idea that he is going to struggle and fall sometimes, but it's all about what happens when he picks himself back up. This is some great writing, man. And let's not forget about Eggman. He actually has a great arc in this game. His main focus is the relationship with Sage, who was his AI program that we mentioned at the beginning of this review. Sage starts out as just his creation, another one of his programs that is supposed to do his bidding. And as the relationship starts developing through the game, it gets to the point where they actually become more of a father-daughter relationship. And it took time throughout the game for this to develop. You start to see Eggman start to show some cracks as he becomes genuinely affectionate towards his surrogate daughter. And then in the end, it got me in the absolute feels when Sage decided to sacrifice herself to save everybody on their planet. Because once it gets to the end, Sonic does get to be reunited with his friends. They finally become released from the cyber prison that they've been in, and they all have a moment of reuniting. But then the focus shifts to Eggman, who doesn't get that reunion with his daughter. And the writers and directors of this game do an incredible job of showcasing Eggman's emotions without him having to utter a single word. In fact, all it takes is a quiet, still shot where we get to see the view behind Eggman. We don't even get to see his face as he looks up into the sky where his daughter sacrificed her life to save everybody. All it takes from him is one long gaze, and then the shoulders start to droop, and you start to see the weight come over him of she's not coming back. Dear Sonic team and all of the executives over at Sega, this is how you write a great Sonic story.
Keep it simple, stupid. Great advice. Hurts my feelings every time.
Now, the game is not perfect at all, and while I'm willing to overlook a lot of the things that didn't sit quite well with me, there were some things that I really wanted to bring up for potential improvement in future Sonic games. Number one is that there are some very clearly obvious pop-ins when it comes to the background. What I mean by that is that when you're running around the island or traversing or looking for your next objective, anything that's not within like a 30 feet distance from you pops in very clearly out of nowhere whenever you're running. I get that maybe they didn't have the time to really perfect this, but it really can take you out of some moments where you're rushing along the grass and then all of a sudden these gigantic structures and rails and all that stuff just pop up out of nowhere. It's just super disengaging. Also, there's this annoying camera lock that happens whenever you lock on to certain enemies. So if you're running in Ares Island and then all of a sudden there's an enemy that's next to you, if you don't want to engage with that enemy, you kind of just want to move on, right? Well, in this case, the camera locks on you and it almost forces you to engage in combat. And the only way to get around this is you just keep running and change the controls or run the other way. It's just something that's super jarring, and I wish we didn't have to be forced to do that. Also, there's a lot of sections on each island where you're just exploring and it forces you into these 2D segments. Usually when you hit an acceleration pad or a random spring, that will usually force you to lock onto this kind of very fixed formulaic 2D route. And it's kind of annoying, especially when you're just trying to run around and you're forced into this linear path. But one of the more problematic things I had with this game was ironically the finale, specifically the final Titan. The beginning actually isn't bad at all, it's really fun. But then when you actually take it to space to take on the final boss being the end, it's literally just a moon. And if you haven't played this game on its hard setting, you actually only have to do one quick time event and then mash a button one time and then the game's pretty much over. There's no challenge to this whatsoever, and I thought it was extremely disappointing. Now, if you did choose to put it on hard mode, you're basically playing a glorified Galaga segment, and that is going to be your grand finale. Either way, these are incredible letdowns for what was otherwise a super fun game, and I really hope that Sonic Team fixes that going forward. Next up, on the final island, when you're looking for the final Chaos Emerald to take on the main boss, you are forced to play this pinball segment that goes on for way longer than it should. Now, I like pinball games in Sonic as much as this next person. Again, I grew up on Sonic Heroes, and there was that one specific pinball level that I'll never get out of my memories. But the problem with this is that they set the max score you have to get to 5 million points, and you can't progress at all unless you get to that max point. And you only have 3 balls. If you lose all 3 of them, which most of the time really isn't in your control, then you have to start all over again. And this is so frustrating. I feel like it would have been better if they at least gave you an option to lower the required amount that you needed to get to pass to the next level. Especially when something like this is completely out of your control, it's extremely maddening because you want to move on to the final boss, but you're playing something that's incredibly stupid and something that lacks stakes like pinball. And it's just really hard to get into this because at this point you just want it to be done already. The way I saw it, it felt like they kind of ran out of ideas, and so they were just trying to pad the runtime. Another pretty big complaint I had with this game, and I know a lot of people have said this already, is that even though there are 5 different islands, I'd say 3 out of the 5 really are just Kronos Island, but rebranded over and over and over again. There's not too much that sets them apart. Yeah, one of them has like a volcano and some rocky surfaces, but they all pretty much fit the same. And Ares Island, which is the one with all the sand, is the only one that wow, totally screwed that one up.
Are you stupid or something?
Like maybe in the next game, let's get some ice, let's get some snow, let's get some city urban landscape. You know, it really doesn't take much to think outside the box, and I really hope that Sega really considers that when it comes to future games. But that's enough of all the negativity. Overall, I think this is one of the best 3D Sonic games of all time. But don't take my word for it. Go ahead and pick up a copy and play it for yourself. If you've played any Sonic games in the past, I really think it'll be worth your time to give this game a shot. And if you've made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment below what your favorite Sonic game is of all time. It could be one of the recent 3D games, it could be one of the older retro games from the 90s. It doesn't matter, let me know. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you're new. It only takes a second and it helps out my small channel in massive ways. I really appreciate all of the likes and comments that you guys have made on my videos, specifically comments. Comments do a great job of boosting my video and YouTube's algorithm, and it lets more people get a hold of my videos. But with that all the way, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.